Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. The book came out, the Jake Tapper book, with the guy from, what was it, Axios or whatever. You know Jake Tapper, and it's the book about Biden's mental decline. Now, the book about Biden's mental decline, it's not going to be news for you. You don't even need to read it. You lived it. You saw it every day of your life. But you're probably astounded as I am at all these people that are pretending like they just found out for the first time that, can you believe that they were hiding Biden's cognitive decline? Oh my God. No, it's not a big controversy. We were telling you for the last 5 years that this guy's had cognitive decline, and you made fun of us. You called us crazy, called us deranged, mean. Oh, you're making fun of his stutter. Look, you don't need to read this book. But everyone that voted for Joe Biden needs to read this book. I don't even know if that's the case. When are y'all going to wake up? You people who call yourself woke, you are the most asleep people in society. If you did not notice that this guy was a human Roomba for the last 25 years, just bouncing into the walls, saying random phrases, falling upstairs. I mean, you ever fallen upstairs? Falling off of bicycles? And so now the question goes, okay, let's get beyond that. You already knew this, so this isn't news to you. This isn't even exciting to you. The exciting discussion that we need to have is how much of this was covered up, who knew what, when. And there's a lot of people who are talking about charging people with crimes. Now, I don't know how you charge Joe Biden with the crime. Yeah, she covered it up, but it's all subjective. There's no crime in having a wrong opinion. Like, for instance, morally speaking, yes, she's wrong. Ethically speaking, she's way out of bounds. But in a court of law, when you put her on the stand and you say, you told the nation that he was fine, he was fit to be president, both mentally and physically. And then here we find out his body's like 8 months away from leaving us, and his mind left us about 6 years ago at least. And she can say, yes, that's what I thought. Well, she can be wrong, but that's a subjective opinion. So there's not really a fraud there. Legally speaking, now you and I both know total fraud, but all these other people, someone had to know something. Either they have the worst doctors in the world, because look, the cancer is terrible news. We do not delight in that. We're not going to celebrate that. That's terrible. The mental decline, it's also terrible news. It's also nothing to celebrate. But remember, this guy was president 4 months ago. So it's not really likely that all this got missed and we just found out in the last 4 months. No, we all knew, and it was hidden. The mental stuff is out in the open. I understand how you can hide the prostate one, and that doesn't even bother me, because whether or not you govern the country well is not predicated on the well-being of your prostate, but it is predicated on the well-being of your brain and your cognitive function. So the story yesterday about the cancer, just total sad. But this book coming out today about his mental state, this is actually important. This means something, because you all saw the mental decline. You can't hide the symptoms of a mental decline. You saw it over and over in videos, and you saw it. You heard us playing it on WBAP. We were making parody songs about it and jokes about it, and it's been a running gag for the 5 years that he was in the public spotlight. But this book from Jake Tapper is an indictment, not on Democrats, not on Joe Biden, not even really on the media. This book from Jake Tapper is an indictment on every single person who voted for Biden. This should wake some people up, because if you didn't see this, or if you still voted for Biden, you were either too severely uninformed to be allowed near a ballot box. Oh, I never saw that video. I didn't see where he fell. I didn't see all these stutters. Well, then you're not informed. You shouldn't have been voting, period. But for the rest of you, you overlooked it and just shook it off because you're so incredibly brainwashed by Team Blue. Team Blue has you convinced that voting for a mashed potato brains is better than Trump, better than literally Hitler. And no joke, they're not going to, unless you tell them, they're still not getting the message. On Fox News, they're cycling through a whole bunch of stories here, one of which includes the book. On MSNBC, they're not. They're all about this representative from New Jersey getting arrested, which we will talk about later. But I kid you not, right before the James show started, I had to type this in my notes because it was so hilarious. They had on a writer from the Atlantic talking about his latest column, which was doing a deep dive into the shady past of J.D. Vance. It's like at a time right now, you're looking at all the weird cover-ups and dots that don't connect in J.D. Vance's past. Wow. On the day the expose book comes out. So a lot of people are calling for a congressional investigation. I'm not sure if that'll do anything. Congressional investigations usually come up with somewhere between jack and squat. But I do like the idea of pulling together some of these officials, putting them under oath. Joe Biden, too. Doctors, everyone. What did you know? When did you know it? How deep did this go? Who all knew it? Did Nancy Pelosi know it? Who all did you tell? Because the question we've got to get to is, we all agree that the mental decline is too much for him to be president. And he was exerting those symptoms before he was ever president in 2020. Or I guess 2021 if you want to be a jerk about it. Who was really running the White House? Who was writing the speeches? Who was telling him who to call on? Who was putting the words on the teleprompter? Who was drafting the executive orders? Who was controlling the auto pen? Now we're on to something huge. The auto pen. Yes, the auto pen. You thought it was strange. I did too. When all the pardons came out 5 months ago, 4 months ago, and they were signed by auto pen. Not because he was on an airplane coming back from France. He was down the hall. Does he even know what he was signing? Does he even know what was signed on his behalf? Is there any evidence he was briefed or even looked at it or even got a list of the pardons that much less approved them? Mind-boggling to think that your neighbor, your daughter, your sister-in-law saw the same thing you did and is just now admitting that Biden had a mental decline. But coming up, who knew what when? Should the people that covered this up face jail time? Or is it legal to defraud the country about the mental health of the president? Raven Harrison, political activist, is going to answer some of those questions next, but I also want to hear from you. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. You people chomping at the bit. I'll get to you right after Raven Harrison next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. So Jake Tapper's book's now out. It's Original Sin, President Biden's decline, its cover-up, and his disastrous choice to run again. My next guest is probably going to set fire to a couple copy of these. Rhetorically speaking, we don't want to be accused of property damage or violence. Raven Harrison's back on the James Show. Welcome back, Raven.
Hey, James.
Yeah, so Raven Harrison, as someone who's been watching politics and commenting on it for a long time, how sickening is this book? Like, Jake Tapper is one of the last people that should be writing this book.
Well, agreed, but it's not as sickening as what this represents. I really, truly believe if you look at the timeline, this makes a painful sense to most people. This cancer diagnosis, he didn't get, the likelihood that he got, metastasized to the bone cancer that was just found from a nodule is almost zero. And that's coming from the leading medical experts. They've known about this for years, which means they knew he was ill. They knew he was cognitively impaired. And as soon as the HER report came out linking his cognitive decline to the auto pen and everything that's been going on in our country, then all of a sudden now he's got prostate cancer, and we have to lay off of him like the way they did Rush Limbaugh, and they tore him limb for limb, dying of cancer. So this is what you're seeing is the biggest deflection and smokescreen in our nation's history. They gave the nuclear codes to someone who was mentally infirm. That is what the American people never, ever let them forget that. We've spent 4 years, Biden sharp as a tack. So this book, is only another level of gaslighting, James.
It's written by one of the gaslights himself, Jake Tapper. I mean, Jake Tapper writing this book is like Bill Cosby writing an expose about P. Diddy. Like, well, your parties went too far, sir. Like, Jake Tapper, correct. Sir, you are one of the chief principal liars who up until and even after the debate, I don't know if you listen to the James Show, but I have the audio of this, this little few minutes of time between the end of the debate that ended Joe Biden's candidacy and the next morning when everyone kind of agreed that this is over and he needs to step down and everyone got on that same sheet of music. They were still saying nice things about Joe Biden's debate performance after the debate.
Well, yeah. I mean, they were protecting their investment because the media, the left, the swamp, Pelosi, they were all in on this. They knew. I mean, he was in his basement, James. Do you remember during the campaign? He was in his basement. He barely came out. He couldn't fill a stadium. And they wanted you to believe that this guy got 81 million votes, more than Obama, more than Bush, more than Clinton, more than Trump. It is absolutely ludicrous. And he's sharp as a tack. He's sharp as a tack. Didn't we have a White House physician say that he was completely fit? People need to be losing their licenses. This is elder abuse. We all could see with our eyes that Biden was not okay. Everybody could see that. But they would rather, and I just tell people, if you let your hate consume you to the point where you are willing to give the nuclear codes to somebody with dementia, then you really need to recheck your life choices.
Well, how do we convert these people? Because I think we have a great moment here for people to see, I have a big reason to doubt my worldview and to trust the people that have now obviously been lying to me for the last 5 years, at least the last 2 years. How do we convert these people and say, you know what, if they're lying about this, you know what else they're lying about? Pretty much everything else.
You have to remind them to put their faith in what they can see. This is what the Democrats have been running on heavy lately, is don't believe what you can see with your eyes. Believe what we tell you. And when people start doing their own and looking at him, lies are not partisan. People lie. People on both sides, Democrats and Republicans, lie. So the truth is what you perceive it to be. So you need to be plugged in. If this guy is, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, the left says it's a rainbow flag. And we have to get out of that mentality of justifying this behavior. The congresswoman who's had charges filed against her, this is a partisan. No, you guys spent 4 years saying no one's above the law, and you went after Trump for everything. You went back 10 years to make up some stuff. So now that you're on video assaulting, an ICE agent, no one's above the law. You need to go to jail. All these people, and it doesn't matter which side you're on, who are breaking the law.
That's my next question. Who needs to go to jail, Raven?
Everybody. Mayorkas needs to go to jail. Pelosi should have her own bar in there if possible. They all need to go to jail. Every single one of these people who have, broken the law. I'm surprised she let Bondi let off the mayor of Newark. He should be in there too, but she assaulted an ICE agent. If that was any conservative, we would be under the jail right now. And they need to be in handcuffs, and we need to show the American people that the law applies to everyone, not just to conservatives and not just to people you don't like. That's what the Constitution is for. But now they've selectively forgotten that.
All right, Raven Harrison, I noticed you have a new website, ravenharrisonforcongress.com.
Yes.
So you're just progressing right along. So what's next? What does it take to run for Congress? I've never done it.
It takes an extremely thick skin and a lot of money and a willingness to say, you know what, we're not going to bring the swamp back into America. It's worth fighting for, and we got to get real patriots in there to do the job, and we're going to get it done.
Are you going to get this book?
Yes.
You are going to get it?
I have to get it, and we already have a copy, but it's painful. It's one of those things that if this was a drinking game, I would already be probably 6 sheets to the wind, but we're going to get it through.
All right. Well, they have some excerpts over here on the Amazon page for it. I've been reading a little bit of it. It seems okay. It might be worth picking up. But if you read it, let me know. I'll have you back on for your review.
Will do.
Thank you very much. This is a great Raven Harrison. You can find it at ravenharrison.com, or if you want to help out with her campaign, ravenharrisonforcongress.com. But what do you think? Because I see a lot of people saying people need to go to jail. Who needs to go to jail and for what? Not just the blanket statement, people need to go to jail. Who? Is there? What did Jill Biden do that's illegal? Lying about someone's mental conditions, very subjective. You can't go to jail for having a terrible talent for diagnosing mental decline, can you? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm going to squeeze one in here. It's David in Bedford. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
Yes, sir, James. The ones that need to go to jail, and I believe President Trump is holding back a little bit, setting the noose really wide, because when it happens, for example, anybody that signed anything that committed fraud, if it was anything that spent our taxpayers' dollars and this president had no clue what he was doing and someone else was signing that auto pen, and watch this, I remember seeing President Biden, I don't remember the exact thing that was said by the press, but they asked him about something he signed. He goes, I didn't sign anything. I didn't sign anything. It's like, oh my gosh, what was that moment? What was that about? And so I'm just saying, if it's anything that was committing fraud and ripping off money from the American people and was signed by somebody else besides the president, that's fraud.
All right, okay, I can't argue with that, because that is the big question. Then, who was in control of the auto pen? Did he really write all those pardons? Did he just have his staff come make him a list and I'll just sign whatever? And people were sticking in things that he didn't even know about? I don't know. Could you really be that brushed up on the number of pardons that he signed? But also it goes beyond that. It goes to the executive orders. If he does have cognitive decline or early dementia, there's legal protocols that say people with dementia, people with cognitive decline past a certain point, can't even sign contracts. They can't even enter into a contract. So what does that happen to all executive orders or even legislation he signed? Big red flags, big question marks. Help me answer it. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm going to tell you who I think might need to go to jail first coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM. WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And our top story today is the new Jake Tapper book. It's styled as an expose, but it's not exposing anything you didn't see for the last 5 years. Can you believe that they were hiding Biden's mental decline? Yeah, Jake. We can believe it. We were trying to tell you. You had guests on that were telling you for 5 years, and you argued with them, and you called them horrible names. Why would you make fun of a child's stutter? Stop it, Jake Tapper. You're just as guilty as anyone else. But I'm glad you wrote this book because, look, I have friends that one of my close friends, his daughter's in college, just voted for Kamala Harris. Why don't you go show her this book? Why don't you go up into her worldview before she gets to any more elections? This has got to change some people's minds. How many times do you have to go on your social media feed and the people that you think are the crazy, racist, mouth-breathing Nazis turn out to be right? Turn out not to be racist. Turn out not to be hateful. We're just telling you the truth. We saw a guy that was acting demented. Turned out we were right. They were right. There was a cover-up. They were lying to you. Your worldview does need to be challenged because that's what I hope the good that comes out of this bad is. You got to think thousands. I mean, I wish millions of people are waking up to the idea that the media is just lying to them. No, your dad's not crazy or your grandpa is not crazy. The media is lying to you. Now, once we all admit, because this is the cathartic moment of this book. Oh, good. Y'all are finally admitting what we all saw for the last 5 years. Whew. That's step one. Step two, who knew what and when? Because I knew and you knew, but also the people around him had to know. The people in the media that were close to him in the White House press pool, they had to know that he was demented and not fit to be a school bus driver, much less president of the United States. But hear me out. Who do I think should go to jail first? No one's saying this. Joe Biden. And it goes back to the Hur case. The Hur case, for people who aren't terminally online, it's the documents case. They had parallel documents case, one against Trump, one against Biden. And the Hur report was released in February. And based on some interviews that happened back in October of 2023, and when I say February, I mean February of last year, February of the election cycle. But because of some interviews back then, Hur said this guy is so mentally unfit that we can't even charge him with a crime. And I think from then on, everything he did has to be reviewed. Everything from the interviews, not from the release of the report, from the interviews that happened in October of 2023. If he was so incompetent then that he was not legally responsible for his actions, then that invalidates everything he did after that. And I think for starters, that's a starting point, but I'd be willing to go back even further than that. What say you? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Richard in Collinsville. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
Well, I think that you have to go back to 2015 in order to get to where you need to be today. And I agree with your assessment of Biden and that he should be charged. However, it all started with Hillary Clinton hiring a guy named foreign national named Steele to write that Russian collusion dossier that turned out to be false. However, nobody has ever said, nor have I heard anyone say that maybe we could charge Hillary Clinton, Steele, the foreign national, charge all of the news directors of legacy media and the anchor reporters who all collaborated for 5 years preaching Russian collusion against Donald Trump. In my view, that's high treason because they deliberately and collaboratively, collectively might be a better word, conspired to destroy Donald Trump, who was a federal candidate for the presidency of the United States. And even after he won, they continued for 4 long years preaching Russia collusion. If and until Hillary Clinton, James Comey, all of the news directors and the news anchors have all been charged, maybe under the RICO Act, with high treason or at the very least a first-degree felony, which is the charge if you interfere with an election, especially a federal election. We need to start there. Pam Bondi needs to drag those people into court, and I think she ought to use the RICO statute and hotwire it to either treason or first-degree felony of election interference, because that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, and as far as going back to the old Steele dossier, whoever falsified the FISA court documents, why did those people never get charged?
She could probably throw that in the pot.
Right.
I wouldn't object.
Well,
I think that would be smart.
I would actually be a little more sympathetic to the members of the media who are running with the hoax, because they're just dupes. Now, what they should do if they had a shred of dignity would be to resign with a sort of a public apology for missing a story this big and this obvious. They're not going to. Why should they? Well, I wouldn't give up my awesome job if everyone was going to give me a pass. But that's the sad part, is they're going to get a pass. This society's going to give them a pass. But every media figure, every politician, political pundit, news reporter, news anchor, columnist, talk show host, the ladies of The View, who all continued to claim Biden was the best candidate for president, should just out of honor resign, or if they don't, their bosses should fire them.
Well, the bosses are culpable, just like the people who continued to broadcast the lie. And my position is simple. I wore a badge as a reserve peace officer for 50 years in Bexar County, and I spent a number of years serving criminal warrants, so I'm very familiar with that game. And I can tell you that just like Harmon issuing his criminal warrants, and now suddenly sanctuary cities are willing to give up the prisoner, just like that, if you start issuing warrants against the people, the principals were Hillary Clinton, Steele, the news directors of legacy media, and the anchors. That is a select group that all knew it was
Richard,
false.
I'm just out of time. Good stuff. Appreciate you calling in, sir. That was Richard in Collinsville. If you want to be next, 800-288-9227. And we do have some people coming up next, and they're going to be coming in hot. But for the 20% of the audience that leans left, do you feel ashamed of your support of Biden? Or did you recognize this and say, I'm not going to vote, or I'm going to sit this one out? Because if you did, good for you. But if you were one of the people that was shouting down people for not supporting Biden, you were either duped by propaganda or you are the propaganda. Just know that this is a good chance for you to evolve into something that you never thought you would become, or just keep being dishonest. It's up to you. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. And our top story is the Jake Tapper book that exposes the hidden truth behind Biden's cognitive decline, something that you saw with your own eyes for the last 5 years. There's a whole bunch of people out there, pretty much the same people that were telling you this is the best guy in a nation of 340 million to be president. Less than a year ago, they were telling you this. This is just them covering their butt like, oh, we just found out. But for the common voter out there that went and actually voted for Joe Biden, shouldn't you seriously reconsider your worldview? Doesn't it feel odd that the last 5 years were a constant stream of lies from the media? And they always talk about Trump lies. And Trump, he's known for exaggerating. That's for sure. And yeah, they've caught him into saying things that aren't true. But dude, the last 5 years, the entire narrative about Joe Biden was a lie. And not like the Trump lies, like I had the biggest inauguration ever. Everybody knows it, believe me. Or something silly like that. For you people, you fact checkers, you were all over those lies. You people who email me about trivial crap, Eddie, Dave, will you be all over these lies too? Because I would love for you to just snap out of it and join us on Team Red. I don't think you're a Nazi. I think you just listen to people who are wrong. And so if you are someone who's now doubting your worldview, good, keep doing it. Do some more research. Your dad's not really a Nazi. Capitalism is better than socialism. MAGA voters are not predicated by white supremacy. Your media outlets lie to you constantly. Please be skeptical. And you really think they just found out on Friday? Grow up. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Marshall in Bedford. You're on WBAP. Your thoughts on the Tapper book?
Number one, it's full of lies. That's all liberals know how to do is lie, but they believe it's the truth. And it's like my father always said, you can't argue with an idiot. If you can't convince them that they're wrong, they're just going to stay wrong,
now
believing it's the truth.
That's too reductive here, because some very smart people disagree with us politically. And it's not, they don't just believe it because they're idiots. They believe it because they trusted their professors and they trusted the media and the rest of academia and NPR and PBS and Netflix and Hollywood and their favorite musicians. And it's not that they can't do all they can do is lie. They can make good music. Bruce Springsteen made some good music. Robert De Niro made some great movies, but that just does not translate well into political acumen.
There are a couple of jerks.
Agreed. All right, we're back on the same page.
They just don't see the right. They don't see the right side of it.
Well, I don't think you're winning anybody over with that approach there, Marshall. They're not all idiots, and all they can do is lie.
They're not trying to convince, because they're always going to believe the lies that they're told. And
no,
overrules.
See, Marshall, you sound like you've given up, but you got to realize about half of the people who agree with you now, Marshall, did not when they were just spit out of college. And so we kind of have to foster the evolutionary process from when you're young and liberal to older and conservative. Don't push them away, Marshall. Yeah. We need these people to convert. Tom, Frisco, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Well, I think Biden, like you, should be the one going to jail. Not like you should be going to jail, but that's how you think.
I got it.
And one of the main reasons I think that is because if you remember back when all of this lawfare was going on, and especially about the documents, well, when did Joe Biden get those documents that he had in his garage? Not when he was the president.
Well, we don't have to go. We don't have to go relitigate the documents case. You're absolutely right, because the Hur report said that he was guilty, definitely guilty of serious. Well, I don't think documents felonies are serious, but they're called felonies, and that's supposed to be serious. But he was guilty of crimes, and the only reason he got off the hook, that was already admitted. No one even doubts that, Tom. No one even doubts what he did with the documents is wrong. It's just if he's not mentally capable to be held accountable at that point, how is he still mentally capable to be president? Lee in Fort Worth, you have the final word on this. What do you think?
Yes. Hi there. Okay. So I just, I was a huge Rush Limbaugh fan. I used to listen to him almost every day. And I can remember whenever Biden first got into office, this is not, we've known that he had mental problems. I mean, not mental problems. Sorry. That he was, had cognitive issues from the very beginning. And Rush used to talk about it. And he used to say right from the very beginning that, Biden is not running this administration. And now we have proof that now that that's not happening, that did not happen, that he was just a puppet. And I remember him telling, and I can't remember the numbers, but I remember him talking about I remember him saying exactly how many executive orders that Biden signed within the first 2 or 3 weeks of his presidency. And he compared it to how many, in the history of all presidents, the most that had ever been signed was a fraction of that amount. It was an ungodly amount of executive orders.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay. And we also saw, my husband and I saw, a video of Biden saying, he was signing them in the Oval Office. He's signing and he goes, okay, I don't know I'm signing, but okay, or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not sure what. Yes.
Yeah. All that has to be reviewed. All that, the good stuff. That was a great last word. I'm sorry, I'm just out of time. Coming up next, we are not done with the measles in Texas. You'll hear from Texas A&M virologist Ben Newman on how to avoid the threat next. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Now, you homeowners out there, we just got through another round of storms, and if you have any doubt about your roof, then BlueRibbonDFW.com needs to be the next website you go to. And don't just listen to the clever guy on the radio. Go to the website and go under the reviews. There's a section called Our Reviews. Look at this one. This is from Luis. He says, Blue Ribbon has done several roofing jobs for our investment group. Always great communication and great work. And then he added, we buy houses. Okay, you got it. So look, if you're a property manager, if you own some rental properties and you're the owner of several roofs, you have some incentive here and a little bit of backup from one of your colleagues on how good BlueRibbonDFW.com can do for you. Because Blue Ribbon Roofing, that second part, always great communication and great work. It's not just enough that they put a new roof on there. It's that there's someone there to answer your call, or someone there to answer your questions, or there's someone there to help you with the insurance process. That's what they do. So if you're looking for a new roof, BlueRibbonDFW.com. Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. I thought we were done with measles. No, we're not. Dr. Benjamin Newman's back on, the chief virologist at Texas A&M. And my nephew just graduated from A&M last week. Thought I'd throw that in there as a family brag. But welcome back to the show, Dr. Ben.
Yeah, thanks. How can I help?
So we're not done with measles. When are we going to be done with this, Ben?
I don't know. We've got some good news and some mixed news on the measles front. So they've started a wider wastewater testing, which is a good way of kind of taking the temperature of everybody without having to actually take anybody's temperature. And what they found is that in El Paso and Lubbock, the number of cases that are showing up in the sewer has actually gone down. And so that's probably tied to fewer cases in general. The other good news is that school is out, and a lot of the cases that were spreading appeared to be spreading in school, and so that should dampen it. The weird news, though, is that there was a second unreported outbreak in Houston in January, decent size. Again, we're finding out about this one through the sewers. And in that case, we know of at least 2 people who were unvaccinated, traveled abroad, and brought back measles in addition to their souvenirs. And it must have spread a little. Yeah.
So we're not even getting this from people. We're getting this from sewer water.
Sewer water, right. Because people, I don't know, people have rights, and sewers are just, yeah.
They have fewer rights. Yes. Your wastewater, yeah, can't vote either. So how many people do we think have it right now?
Nobody has been able to figure out how you tie this, and it would all depend on whether you get a chunk in your analysis from one person or whether it's just a little bit from everybody. It's hard to know. It's a really new science.
Okay, that sounds weird. So we don't even know, like, if there may not be one person with the measles.
There are definitely a couple more just showed up this week, but the numbers are going down. So they are waning, thank goodness, in terms of the ones that are showing up at the doctors. And I think this wastewater data is backing that up. Around when they started dropping in hospitals, they started dropping in the sewers. So they're tied together, but it's hard to put a number on what you see in the sewer as to what's happening in the real world.
So the wastewater techs are all backed up. Is that what you're saying? All right. So we're not in the clear yet, but do you recommend any changes of behavior for anyone listening to the show?
Yeah, about a third of the cases are in people 18 and up. And so this thing doesn't just spread in schools, it's spreading in places where adults are getting together. So, if you got the time and your insurance covers it, I don't know, get down to CVS or Walgreens.
Texas Health Department said 34 of the cases were in vaccinated people, 688 sick patients being unvaccinated or unknown vaccination status. So the vaccine sounds like it helps quite a bit.
Helps, but it's got an expiration date, and it's somewhere around 15 years from what we can tell so far. That's the longest anybody's studied it.
Jeez. Well, then we should have this thing spread all over the place because almost none of us have had it in the last 15 years.
Yeah, no kidding. And I'm worried. We're going to find this measles. It's like there's a bunch of little fuses that are burning and going off in different directions, and we can't tell where it is. When it hits a pocket of unvaccinated people, that's when you're going to see the explosion, and that's when you're going to know it was there. But tracing it right now is tough.
Well, at least we can only find it in the sewage water right now. So I appreciate the update, Dr. Benjamin Newman, Texas A&M. Thank you for your time, sir.
Anytime.
Well, we're not done with it yet, and we'll keep talking about it till it goes back to being an extinct virus. Can we stop bringing these things back in? Once we have it gone, can we just... No, we can't, can we? And isn't that kind of gross? Whose job is it to go through the sewer water testing it for a virus? That's an awful, awful job that I would not want to have. Coming up, now that everyone admits that Joe Biden had mashed potato brains, let's talk about his auto pens. Do they still count? Does his regular signature still count? Do those pardons that he did right before he left office, does that still count? We'll talk about that next. 800-288-9227. Also, the countdown is on. You can get $30 tickets to Dierks Bentley, Simple Minds, Slightly Stupid, Kesha, a whole lot of other good concerts. And the big sale starts tomorrow. If you go now, there's some promo code. I don't know what that is, but I know if you go tomorrow, You can get all kinds of Summer of Live music concerts for $30 a pop. See if your favorite band's in there right now. Go to livenation.com, and then the secret is /ticket to summer. livenation.com/ticket to summer. If you don't remember, you want to ask me later, send me a Facebook message or an email. I'll send you the link. It's no big deal, but it's a great deal for you people who love to go to concerts, myself included. Why don't you get your tickets for $30 from Live Nation? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. My next guest runs currentrevolt.com, and I was going to invite him on to talk about one of his latest stories, and we will, because the death of DEI policies in the Texas government have been greatly exaggerated. But first, Tony Ortiz of Current Revolt, your thoughts on the Jake Tapper book?
Hey, how are you, Blake? Thanks for having me. I haven't really taken a look at it.
Well, we all know what's in it because the Jake Tapper book is pretending like they just found out the things that you have been writing about and I have been talking about for the last 5 years, and that Joe Biden's mental decline was significant and hidden.
Well, look, they had to keep that thing hidden because who else were they going to run? Nobody else was wanting that spot yet, or had the clout or the ability to run for president. And Biden and his he has enough reach to put himself there and basically force his people around him to try to prop him up as a candidate despite his health. So it doesn't surprise anybody. I don't think it surprises anybody. It's just more offensive that they hid it for so long.
Well, it might surprise some of our Team Blue neighbors who are just finding out, the media lied to me for all this time. You've got to be kidding me. But Tony, I'm going to give you a lot of love on this article on Current Revolt, where you break down, it's actually from Tommy Oliver, but it's your website. Is Abbott's DEI ban a hoax? Because I was learning some new terms here. I didn't even know what a hub was until I read your website. But it sounds like it is here to stay.
Yeah, and most business owners that are listening, and I'm sure you have a lot of business owners that listen to your show, know what this is because they try to get these contracts with the government, and you have to be a hub in order to qualify for basically first time for the first part of the bid. And for those listening, hub stands for historically underutilized business, and it's a program that essentially the government has in place where if you are a business owner and you're a minority, and what they define as minority is anybody that's not white, or you're
male,
a woman,
yeah,
correct, or you're a woman, then you're considered a hub. And a lot of business owners get around this by putting the business 51% in their wife's name, right? The wife doesn't actually do anything with the business, but they're able to say, oh yeah, this is a woman-owned business. I own 49%, my wife owns 51%, right? But you've got all these businesses that file under this, and the heart of the program is supposed to be that it helps business owners that are minorities, quote unquote, that are struggling, right? We need to award businesses to these minority-owned companies because they are struggling, right? Well, we found out some of these businesses, for example, one is called the She Government Solutions, right?
SHI, She?
SHI, correct, is a hub. It's owned by not only a woman, but an Asian woman, so she's definitely qualified, right? We pulled out her revenue. In 2024, her gross sales were $15 billion of her company. In 2023, it was $14 billion. In 2021, it was $12 billion. My point being, it's going up every year. The woman herself, her name's Ty Lee. She's worth $5.8 billion.
Well, she's economically disadvantaged compared to any white guy in Texas, I suppose.
Yeah, and let's pretend for a moment I was white, and I'm just a guy that runs a construction company, or in this case, like some.
What are you? Are you Hispanic? I know you have the name.
I'm Hispanic. I'm brown. I'm as brown as they come.
Okay.
So I would qualify for this program, but let's say I was a white male and I applied for this, and I only make my gross worth is $250,000. I'm $240,000, right? She would beat me. This woman who's worth $5.8 billion. She would beat me on this bid, because she's Asian and a woman. And
that's still the law in Texas. Like, not only was that the law, they didn't go change it in this session. So, okay, what else do we learn about the DEI still in Texas?
Well, the fact is it's still there, right? And they haven't done anything to change it. Plenty of government agencies still operate on this, right? And if you are just a normal guy just trying to, pay your bills, and you try to win a contract with the government, whether it's to mow some lawns or get involved with the water municipality or whatever it is, you're not going to get anywhere unless you're not a white male.
Okay, well, that sounds like just racism.
It's truly racism, and it's crazy because the heart of this comes from the leftists and the Democrat Party, right? The Liberal Party. And like many things they do, they push it too far, and they end up being racist themselves. And that's what this is. This is pure like the purest form of racism, where you're basically awarding contracts to anybody else but of a specific race or sex.
Yeah, but even more specifically, this is the most nefarious type of racism because this is systemic racism. Like here we actually have systemic racism from the people who are always belly aching about it into a microphone at some rally somewhere. We actually have where it's written into law. Entire programs and funding structures are awarded to people based on their race or their gender. And boom, not only is it the law of the land, it's celebrated.
Right. And, Abbott's apparently signed this executive order. This was back in January at the beginning of the year, but this stuff is still being done. It didn't actually do anything. Like a lot of stuff that Abbott says that he's done, it's fruitless, right? I think every year Abbott has claimed that he's banning sanctuary cities. We've been banning sanctuary cities for like 6 years now. We've still got that stuff going on. We've been sealing the border for years now, based on what Abbott says. Still got border crossings. Now we've got a president who's actually competent. So a lot of this stuff is getting done. But frankly, a lot of what Abbott's been saying that he's doing doesn't actually have any grounds to it. It's not actually being done.
All right. So what's the solution for this? Just end this program? I mean, that sounds pretty easy.
It does sound easy, and frankly, it is quite easy. We need a legislator to introduce a bill that would ban this sort of practice. And you can have this done in the session, right? Or not. Well, not this session.
Well, yeah, this one's done
in the special session. Yeah, we're done here. But this can be done, and it's quite easy. And I don't see why any Republican, and frankly, Democrats should be on board with this because it's racist. Why hasn't it been done? Your guess is as good as mine. Right now, I know that some state reps are passing more LGBTQ bills. That's more at the top of their list. And other such nonsense, but ending this sort of practice isn't.
I'm also seeing that the DEI law that's supposed to get rid of DEI in higher education and even in secondary schools, public schools, it's kind of unenforceable because all it takes is the name change for the course or the material or in the curriculum or in the synopsis or whatever, and it's still covering the same material just by a different name, and people are finding an easy workaround to the existing DEI ban in education. Is that what you're seeing over at Current Revolt?
Absolutely. A lot of these government agencies and schools and even these companies, right? They're ending their DEI programs and they're starting some other things called like Bridge. I think Bridge is a new term that they're starting to use for a lot of this is Bridge programs. And a lot of these companies are having to do this in order to win contracts with the federal government. Verizon is one that just ended they claim they ended their DEI program. And they even admitted in a public statement that the Verizon's DEI program had unnecessary or accidental racist implications, right? Now, it's to be seen whether they went with some other sort of program, but these agencies, these companies, they're taking their DEI programs, they're renaming them, and then they're giving different titles to the admins that were running them.
All right. Well, Tony Ortiz, if you need any government contracts, you might want to give them while you still have an advantage here, bud.
Yep, I'm going to get those in today.
All right, thank you. Tony Ortiz, currentrevolt.com. It's one of the regular websites I use in daily James Show prep, currentrevolt.com. All right, coming up next, remember the congresswoman who went to New Jersey? There was a group of 3 of them. The mayor of Newark got arrested. Well, the congresswoman who tried to push her way into the ICE detention center in New Jersey might be catching some charges. Should she? I say, hell yes. I'm James Parker. Do you agree? 800-288-9227. It's The James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Now, my favorite story of the day isn't the Biden book. That's the biggest story of the day. That's the one that's going to have big historic implications if people actually take it out to its logical conclusion. I'm not sure if they will, but it could. I have a little excitement about that. But my favorite story, just because it's delicious and it's not so heartbreaking as some guy cognitive decline, getting ate up with cancer and lying and whatever. This one's just flat out. This is like dessert after you've had a good meal. I have the official statement from U.S. Attorney Alina Habba, who's over the District of New Jersey. And it looks like she's going to throw some charges at one of the congresswomen who went down to that detention center a couple weeks ago. Remember the ICE detention facility, Delaney Hall, where you had 3 congressmen and the mayor of Newark demand to be let in there. We need to make sure it's part of our constitutional oversight duty. We need to go in there right now. And they're like, well, we can schedule you a tour, but we don't just open the gate and let you walk around. This is a prison. We have rules, and some of it's for your safety. Some of it we have to confirm who you are. Some of it I'm not here to, we don't have the guy here that can answer some of the questions that you're going to have. We don't. Give us a minute. So the next time a bus was going to go in, the gates opened up and they tried to squish their way in. Now, I don't know if you've seen the video, but I have. I played the audio for it on the show, but you can't really tell what's going on. And she does. She pushes and she kind of tucks her arm into her side and kind of does like that hockey check to one of the guards that's trying to keep her out. And then at one point, it does look like she pushes a guy, but it's not like she's throwing a guy on the ground or anything especially violent. But it's enough of a shove that I feel comfortable saying that if you did that, you would get charges. If I did that, I could expect charges. But here it is. This just came out yesterday from U.S. Attorney Alina Habba. I take my obligations as U.S. Attorney seriously. I understand the responsibility that comes with my position. Will work diligently to uphold the law, deliver justice to the people of New Jersey. And then she goes on to say they are dismissing Mayor Baraka's misdemeanor charge, but the dismissal against the mayor is not the end of this matter. Here's the good part. Representative LaMonica McIver assaulted, impeded, and interfered with a law enforcement in violation of Title 18 U.S. Code Section 111, parentheses A, parentheses 1. That conduct cannot be overlooked by the chief federal law enforcement official in the state of New Jersey, and it is my constitutional obligation to ensure that our federal law enforcement is protected when executing their duties. I have persistently made efforts to address these issues without bringing criminal charges and have given Representative McIver every opportunity to come to a resolution, but she has unfortunately declined. No one is above the law, politician or otherwise. It is the job of this office to uphold justice, impartially, regardless of who you are. Now we will let the justice system work. Oh, so what? Was there like some sort of plea deal and she didn't take it? So now we have to come up with charges? That's interesting. Well, the House Committee on the Judiciary, the Democrats, the ranking member, this is a statement from ranking members Raskin, Jayapal, Crockett, Scanlon, Nadler, Johnson, and McBath on the DOJ targeting of Representative McIver. Yes, they just targeted her. They just picked her out. She didn't really go push a cop. She didn't really go lean her shoulder into him and try and impede him during the execution of his duties. No, they're just targeting her. They're just randomly picking on her. But here's the statement. The targeting of Representative McIver is a blatant attempt to, you know what? This needs some sad music, actually. Let's do this. The targeting of Representative McIver is a blatant attempt to intimidate members of Congress and to block our oversight of this administration's actions, which have been enjoined more than 150 times by federal courts. We stand by Representative McIver's exercise of her constitutional rights and duties. If you come for the legal rights of one of us, you come for the rights of all of us. Oh, did all of y'all shove a cop or? Second paragraph says, members of Congress have the right to conduct oversight, full stop. Whether that's holding cabinet officials accountable or visiting immigrations and customs enforcement facilities, Representative McIver was performing her proper oversight role, a role she was elected by the American people to do, and even participated in a 1-hour tour after the incident occurred. Wait a second. I thought that was a 3-hour tour. Was that the... Charging members of Congress for doing our jobs is a dangerous precedent to set. It reveals the increasingly authoritarian nature of this administration and its relentless, illegal attempts to suppress any dissent or oversight, including from judges, members of Congress, and the American people, which check lawless executive power. Representative McIver has our full support, and we will do everything in our power to help fight this outrageous threat to our constitutional system. Yeah, they're just picking on her. That's right. So here's the narrative that you just get in charge of a crime for doing your job. You know, three other people were there doing the same, air quotes, job, but none of them pushed a cop. None of them rammed into him with their shoulder. None of them impeded him or any of the other things that she's accused of. And I say accused like with a grain of salt, with a boulder of salt, because we saw the video and they didn't catch charges. So no, apparently you're not just getting picked on for your political beliefs. You're being justly charged for shoving a cop. If you shoved a cop, would any of these people come to your defense? How many of you have had charges tacked onto you because you shoved a cop? Or how many of you have a son or a nephew or a grandson or a neighbor's son or something like that who shoved the cop and caught charges? But no, you can't be grabbing a cop by an arm and pulling him. You can't lower your shoulder and try and barrel your way through. You can't push a cop off to you when he tries to stop you. These are legit charges. Throw her under the bus. Remember, January 6th taught you that if you go uninvited into a federal building, then you can be thrown in solitary for the next 4 years. 800-288-9227. Do you have any sympathy for this congresswoman, or do you think that she should be charged and put in jail? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP, 800-288-9227. If you have any hot sports opinions on the Congresswoman who tried to push her way into the ICE detention center in New Jersey a couple weeks ago, she might be catching charges from U.S. Attorney Alina Habba, who I think her previous job was Miss America or something. You seen this woman? She does not look like the regular U.S. Attorney. She looks like a Fox News reporter. But I have no sympathy for her because we all saw that if you go into a federal area where you're not allowed to be, then you can go get arrested. They'll track you down days, weeks later. They'll throw you in solitary for the next 4 years. Oh, we learned that. And we also learned that, she grabbed the security guard's arm. We learned that grabbing someone's arm and pushing them is an acceptable reaction is getting stabbed in the heart. So she's lucky she's just catching charges. All that's facetious, tongue-in-cheek, but I think we get the point. 800-288-9227. This is James in Cisco. Hello, other James. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
I think it's a insurrection Democrat style, and I think she needs to go to jail just like all the J6 people did. I think she needs to be held accountable because Democrats are never held accountable for anything they do. And it's their time now.
Well, sometimes they're held accountable for things that they do. When they're no longer of use to the narrative, they get thrown under the bus on quite a regular basis.
That's totally true.
Yeah, right. They took Harvey Weinstein's millions and millions of dollars of donations till he was more useful at being under the Me Too bus. And so, yeah, sometimes they get what they deserve, but we don't hold our breath. I would love to see the charges happen, though, because we also got the lesson. And thank you very much, James and Cisco. We also got the lesson for the last couple of years that no one's above the law whenever they're throwing in these penny ante charges against Donald Trump about something that happened 30 years ago and it's past the statute of limitations and it was a misdemeanor, but we're going to elevate it to a felony and forget the statute of limitations. And even though the guys who are supposedly the victims says they weren't victimized and they would do business with him again and they're happy with the way it turned out. No, we learned that no one is above the law, didn't we? Is that still true? Brian, Grand Prairie, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Yeah, James, I'm of the opinion that January 6th insurrectionists that attacked our Capitol are no way comparable to someone trying to enter forcibly into a detention center. The insurrectionists, I would have considered them enemy combatants. And being a veteran, I would have taken them and put them in POW camps. They were attacking my country, the seat of our power, and I would have had no mercy on them. Being sworn to defend the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. They were domestic enemies to our country. So I don't consider that any way comparable.
You really think the January 6th people that loitered through the Capitol are all insurrectionists?
They were attacking the Capitol.
Oh, they were attacked. So was she attacking the ICE detention center?
I would not consider that an attack.
What's the difference?
An individual congressman trying to gain entry into a federal facility.
Well, I have an individual citizen trying to gain entry into the Capitol. See, when you put it like that, when you intentionally reframe it to fit your narrative, you're being dishonest.
No, if I would have been one of the Capitol Police, I would have shot every last bullet out of my gun at those people attacking my country.
Well, you would have been wrong to do so.
I have a duty to protect my country. I served gallantry in the Gulf War, and I see those people the same as I would see Iraqi militants.
Okay, so if they were attacking the country, who are they attacking it on behalf of?
Radical.
Just radical, just the word radical.
Yes.
See, because in the Civil War, the Confederacy was attacking the Capitol. In the War of 1812, the British were attacking the Capitol. In the other wars that we've had, Mexican-American War, the people that were attacking us were doing so on behalf of Mexico. But here you have a group of people who, if even if what you say is true, they were completely unarmed. So I dare call it an attack. It's just a rally or a protest at worst. And what were they going to do? Replace the Constitution with what? The Constitution? No, they're not trying to overthrow our government. It was called the Stop the Steal rally. These were people who were concerned about the integrity of the election that did have some funny math in it. But to call it like an insurrection or they're trying to overthrow the government and replace it with the same system of government, they're not overthrowing it and on behalf of an invading force or even a competing ideology. No, it doesn't meet any of the metrics of insurrection. You're repeating what you've been told. And do you think that Joe Biden was mentally fit this entire time too? Is that what you think?
I wouldn't consider him mentally fit the entire time.
Did you vote for him?
Last 4 years. No.
Did you vote for Kamala Harris?
I am a Reagan Republican, and I would have attacked every
Nobody
last
buys
one.
that. Nobody buys that. Nobody who's a Reagan Republican would call the January 6ers insurrectionists. It doesn't meet any of the definitions of insurrection. You're repeating what you've been told.
The Republican Party is nowhere close to where it was with Reagan. It is totally turned on its head.
Yeah, they're not limited government conservatives that are more than traditional values.
We don't have a politician in there now. We have some kind of crooked businessman.
I know, like Reagan, who was, that's right, a Hollywood actor for his main career. Yeah, not a career politician who had only done a stint as governor of California. Yeah, dude, everything you said, you just stepped all over yourself, but you were a great caller. Glad to know you're out there. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And I can't wait to see someone in Congress have cuffs thrown on them, charges, because what you saw when those congressmen went to the Delaney Hall ICE detention facility in New Jersey a couple weeks ago, what you saw was behavior that would get you arrested. It would get your son arrested or your daughter arrested if they tried to bulldoze their way into a place where they're not allowed to go on a federal detention facility or federal property of any kind. And I think the most beautiful comparison we have in this situation is January 6th. Because what we have in January 6th, we have some regular January 6th political prisoners that have been on the show. One of them, Larry Brock. He went through an open door. He went through an unlocked open door where other people were walking in. He walked past several cops while he was going through the entrance. None of them attempted to stop him or get in his way. He didn't have to step around them. He didn't put his shoulder down and barrel through them. He didn't grab them by the arm and try and move them. He didn't push them. He waved. He walked around, looked at some stuff, didn't knock over any statues, nothing caught fire, didn't steal anything. There was no wayward dukes. And then he left. They tracked him down. They threw him in jail for over a year, a big chunk of which was in solitary without his full due process. But you learned from January 6th, no one is above the law. You learned from the 90-something charges that they threw at Donald Trump in 2024 alone. You were constantly reminded, no one is above the law. And if you're just brand new to the show, here's a montage. No one's above the law.
The idea that no person is above the law is a bedrock principle of American justice.
No man is above the law, no matter what the crime.
And I agree with you. No man is above the law, and no person is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
All right, I got like 8 minutes of that. I'm not doing that. But you get the point. When Donald Trump's being charged, when January 6ers are being charged, when you are being charged, when your team is being charged, no one's above the law. Well, then why doesn't it apply to this lady here? 800-288-9227. Back to the phones we go. This is Philip down in Temple. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Philip?
No man's above the law. Well, then they're going to say, well, I'm a woman, although they don't know what it is.
Yeah, I get you saying that.
This is a rhetorical question, but what does it set for precedent? Meaning, if they don't move on with the charges, we get just more of the same. You know, that's the biggest problem of this. It'll just be more of the same unless charges are made and there's courts and trials and justice is served, however the outcome is, then it's just going to continue.
Well, you know what? Let's not start the clock now. Let's back it up to the Summer of Love and 2020 riots, and whenever we saw Antifa and BLM, they were going into federal facilities and federal buildings in Portland they were going on federal property. Did they get the full extent of the law, or did Kamala Harris raise money to bail the rioters out? Did they get their charges dropped? Did they get an easy bail and they were out the next day? Because that's not what the January 6ers got. So the January 6ers, compared to this lady, isn't the start of the injustice and misapplication of the law. The January 6ers were the examples that contrasted with the BLM and Antifa rioters when they got away with it. So now the January 6ers are getting screwed on both ends. Anyone before them, they can get away with it. Anybody after them, they can get away with it too. It's just this narrow group. The one time we had anything close to a right-wing riot, which still doesn't meet the definition. They get the book thrown out, but no other person does.
No, exactly. Those ice water bottles that they're throwing at cops. I mean, they always no man's above the law. Examples need to be made. Otherwise, we're never going to have law and order and justice around here.
Bro,
there won't be law and order.
I am shocked they haven't kicked him out of Congress yet. I am just floored
that mayor from that went into icing. They kind of, I'm pissed off over that.
They dropped the charges on him.
Yeah, they dropped. I don't get it. You're playing patty cake again. That just doesn't work. I mean, what are you doing? Just make law. And the woman said that the ICE agents instigated it. Lady, you're walking into a facility. Let's you and I go up there and try to walk in there and do that. It's going to be a whole other ballgame. So there are different applications of the law, or different justice, two-tier system of justice. At least I want it that way.
It doesn't make you feel a whole lot better, but the charges against the mayor were misdemeanors, and what's going on against this lady may end up being felonies. So maybe they won't get the charges dropped on her. I hope this ends the way that I want it to end. I'm just not confident it will, Philip. Thank you for your call.
They don't. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's go to Chris and Crum. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Chris?
Hey, James. In my New Jersey law enforcement days, we had a federal contract with Delaney Hall. We held their overflow.
Delaney Hall?
And I can tell you sure as heck that if they tried that at our county jail, I would have had no problem throwing cuffs on that lady and throwing her in the back of a patrol car and getting her processed.
Dude,
I would have had no problem doing that.
I would have loved to have seen it. Now, are these felonies we're talking about here? If you grab a cop by the arm and yank on him, is that a felony?
Yes, that's absolutely felony because you're in a secure facility. You're in a jail facility, which ups it. And regarding your the one caller with the saying that they would shoot somebody, I think that's a little bit of military unchecked mental illness, if you ask me.
Yeah, that guy was a hack. Anyone who sees what happened on January 6th and says that's an insurrection, they're just repeating what they've heard. There's no critical thinking person that really thinks that those people were trying to overthrow the government and install a different one. Like, not one person really thinks that.
Nobody was charged with insurrection.
Well, they would have brought a weapon. They would have brought like a bow and arrow, a crossbow, a something, the Braveheart broadsword. I mean, what are you going to take over the country that has an $11 trillion defense budget with your fist? It's not believable for 5 seconds. Mike and Cleburne, you're on WBAP. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, James. So the lady trying to bust into the ICE center.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how people are not seeing. For one, them not allowing her in there is not just for saying that they don't want her in there. It's for her protection just the same as it is for the protection of those in there. They're trying to protect her from being in there and trying to protect those that are in there from her. They don't know who she is, or what she is. It boggles my mind. I work in security myself, and the idea of some of the people that work way above me having unfettered access to everywhere it's not logical. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. But I want there to be charges. I want them to be felonies. I want her to be kicked out of office because I don't want this to escalate. Because the previous caller was right. If they don't stop this here, this is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. This whole performative art thing where these people are learning that you can go and you can break the law. And as long as you're doing it in service of the narrative, in order to give the media outlets the headlines that they want, you can get away with whatever. And so they're just going to keep doing worse and worse and worse and more performative things until someone finally stops them. And we should stop them here.
I 100%. I think the last caller you had, the guy from Crum, I think he's 100% right. I would have loved to have seen that lady slapped in cuffs and put behind bars for what she did.
Right.
And I honestly feel bad for the guy that you had on there right before your break, talking about the J6 folks, were insurrectionists. That hurts my soul to even think about something like that.
Agreed. They think we hate them. They think, oh, you must really hate all these people who are different than you. No, most of them I just feel sorry for. Whenever I see someone that's wrapped up in a hijab in 104-degree weather, I don't hate her because she's a Muslim and she's different. I'm like, oh, you don't have to do that. You're in a free country. You could just take that thing off and not just be a big ball of sweat. Whenever I see someone who's like, I don't want to have kids. I'm living my best life. I'm just going to be me. It's like, well, you're really going to regret that when you're 45. I mean, I feel sorry. I don't hate you if you're like, kids are dumb. I'm a career woman. I'm going to chase my dream. Okay, chase your dream, but you're going to be real sad one day, and I'm going to feel sorry for you all over again when you are. It's a painful thing to watch. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Your thoughts on the Congresswoman catching charges. Is there anyone who actually disagrees with her catching charges? I would like to chat with you next. 800-288-9227. We'll wrap this up, and then after that, we've got the Stars that are throwing some big parties because the hockey team's getting close to the finals. I got details on all that coming up on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Listen, even if you're not a sports fan, even if you're not into hockey, you're going to want to hear about these Stars parties that are coming up. Because, look, maybe you're not into it. Maybe your husband is. Maybe your son is. Maybe you have a Stars fan in your life. Or really, it's just a scene, and it's my my favorite kind of scene. It's kind of free. So we'll talk about that in just a second. I want to finish this discussion. I know. Free. I'm cheap. I got it. A congresswoman might catch charges for trying to push her way into the ICE detention facility in New Jersey, Delaney Hall. Remember that a couple weeks ago? Representative LaMonica McIver it may be facing charges of assault and not just assault, interfered with law enforcement. We have the violation, Title 18, United States Code, Section 111, parentheses A, parentheses 1. Don't know what that means, but it sounds serious. And I think, well, look, we learned on January 6th that pushing your way into a federal facility, even if you're unarmed, even if you have good intentions, that'll get you thrown in jail for a couple years. What do you think? This is Donald in Dublin. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
I think she definitely needs to be charged and held accountable. I don't follow the mainstream news. I listen to you when I'm on the road at work. I listen to some other conservative talk show folks, and I've noticed a trend over the last, I would say, year that especially ramped up after Trump won the election. And it seems like it's politicians in general. I'm not even going to categorize it Democrats, Republicans, although I don't see it as much in Republicans. But as a general rule, the politicians are trying to flex and push the boundaries of their authority in order to see if there's going to be any repercussions. And I've said this before. I see them as almost like children who are rebelling against their parents in order to see if there are going to be consequences for bad behavior.
I mean, kind of, it's childlike, but it's also part of the human nature of any age. And really what you're describing is what every person in a position of power has done for most of human history. They're constantly trying to expand the limits and test and see where the boundaries are. Even if the boundaries were previously set, are they going to continue to be enforced? And so it changes and blows with the wind on whatever the contemporary society will accept. And sometimes it goes in our favor and sometimes it doesn't. We didn't have the Second Amendment for all of human history until America. It's super rare that a government lets its citizens be armed enough that they could be overthrown at any second. But that's the whole point of it. And then you've seen gun rights kind of get chipped away at throughout the years until about the time, 80s or 90s or whatever, you started seeing gun rights expand again. Now, the law didn't change. The Constitution didn't change. But yeah, we're always subject to the whims of the interpretations of the current moment. And with that in mind, Donald, this needs to be stopped right now because they are testing the boundaries, and it's only going to get worse if we don't put our foot down on that one. But yeah, I see what you're saying. You must have children because I see my kids doing that constantly.
Well, I think that if they will put charges on her that are serious enough to be the felony level, and then they strip her from her official capacity.
Oh, no, she should be kicked out of Congress. Kicking people out of committee assignments, we act like that's a big punishment, and it is, but not like kicking them out. All right, I got to run. You're making some great points over there in Dublin with your awesome Dr. Pepper history, Donald. Coming up, I'll tell you about the free party the Stars are having for hockey fans, and even the most casual of hockey fans will enjoy this. Details next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. We have a special time of year, and this doesn't happen every year, but the Stars are in the hockey playoffs. Now, you may be getting used to them winning a lot. This is their third year in a row to make it to the Western Conference Finals. And we're at this stage here. They don't do this for the regular season games, and they didn't even do it in the first round of the playoffs. But starting in the last couple of games, if I'm leaving work and there's a game going on, they have the plaza set up here at the American Airlines Center. For new people, the studios for WBAP are right down the hall from the ticket. We're at the American Airlines Center, in that plaza where you walk up. It's called PNC Plaza. And so I was here for what was that? Game 5 and Game 6. They had a whole party set up in the plaza. Now, if you've been to the stadium, you know how when you walk in the front door, there's that giant TV screen that's the size, like 3 times the size of your house. On that, they quite often play the games, but they actually had accommodations for people who wanted to bring a lawn chair. Now, again, lawn chair is the only thing you really need to bring, but a lot of people were bringing other things, their own coolers and whatnot. But you don't even need to bring that, because they have the setup going now to where, if the game's here, they always have the street vendors, people that are selling hot dogs or people that are selling Stars merchandise and hats and T-shirts and whatnot. But now, even for the away games, they're going to play the game on the screen. People are going to show up and bring their chairs and watch it here. And what was it, last Thursday, there was probably 1,000 people that were packed into this plaza. And they have not just the regular vendors, but they have a couple other very important setups there. 2 bars. Yes. People that are selling beer and wine, if that's what you're into. But the Stars crew also adds a little bit of extra to it. When the game goes to commercials, the DJ pops up, gets on the microphone. Hey, Stars fans, how you doing? And it gets loud. I mean, it sounds like this. Hey! And when they score, it sounds like this. And so it's super cool. If you're going to watch the Stars game anyway, you pull up here, and the weather's nice. And you may think it's hot, but that late at night, there's a nice cool breeze. Every time there's a score or something exciting happens, it gets super loud. That doesn't happen in your living room. And it doesn't, I can't say this enough. It's free. I just walk in and out. Like I saw them setting up when I was at work, and before I was done, I went around and just kind of walked through it and see what all they had set up. And then when I finally left for good, I just sat out on one of the little steps over here, and I watched the game for a little bit until I was pretty sure they were going to lose. That was the Game 5. I didn't come back for the Game 6 win that put them over the top. But a lot of people have said that they really appreciate me mentioning events that don't cost much, because look, I have 4 kids. If I want to take a kid to a hockey game, if I want help with Miss Parker, then I got to buy 6 tickets. So if you think you're having a hard time affording stuff, I'm limited very much to pretty much free stuff or things that are exceedingly cheap, or it has to be some real special occasion. This is free. Not, it's only $5. No, absolutely free. So single moms, single dads out there, if you're looking for something that's family friendly to do, that you will probably enjoy too, that doesn't cost anything and fits into your schedule, this is something you should check out. Even if you're not a hockey fan, you'll enjoy the experience. Even if you don't know the rules, even if you hadn't seen a game all season, even if you hadn't seen a game in your entire life, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little more at odd because I'm from the middle of nowhere, and so I still think all these big buildings are cool, and we don't have anything nearly the size of the American Airlines Center in Bug Tussle. Like we have the high school stadium. Whoop-de-doo, right? So I don't know. Maybe I'm just still impressed by all this. But it's a cool scene. It's a good time. The people are well behaved. There's plenty of cops around. It's well lit. There's a lot of good parking. Like there's parking garages here if you can't find a place on the street. You just pony up a few bucks and you only have to walk a block away. So it's like super convenient. And if you don't want to eat street vendors, there's a lot of great restaurants around here. Do something cool. It's like taking a little vacation. It's like going sightseeing, but all you're doing is going downtown. Now, there was some scheduling issues because the Game 1 is tomorrow, And the Katy Perry concert was supposed to be tomorrow. That got rescheduled for Thursday. So all of you who are going to go see the astronaut, Katy Perry, she got rescheduled too. I know, that's right. Never gets old. She's never going to live that one down. But yeah, let's come out here, party, have a good time. If you want more details, American Airlines Center's website is americanairlinescenter.com. So if you can't remember that, you need to go get your head checked out, and not by Joe Biden's doctor. Coming up next, news from Bug Tussle. Very underwhelming. It's never overwhelming. Sometimes it's whelming. This is going to be an underwhelming news report from Bug Tussle to close out the show next on The James Show. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hello, welcome to the James Show. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Now, being a little farm boy from nowhere, East Texas, I like to every once in a while just introduce what the news was like or is like in my hometown out in East Texas. Now, I call it Bug Tussle. It's a loving avatar. But I imagine this is the experience of a lot of small town people who have transplanted into the Metroplex area, or, WBAP reaches a lot of small towns out there. And I think city people get in a bubble, because if you live in a small town, you have to come to Dallas or a big city on a fairly regular basis. If you want to go see a Cowboys game or a Stars game or a Best Buy or, some of these other big stores that you just don't have out in the middle of nowhere. But the city people, they never have a reason to go to Bug Tussle. Like if you're a guy who works in downtown Dallas and you have a nice house in the Highland Park or whatever, no, there's never been a reason. I don't know. Are you going to go pick up a dually? Is that what you're getting? You need a mini excavator? Is that what you don't need it. You never have to go out there. You don't need a round bell, do you? So I think it's good to introduce the city people to the life, the culture, the world, the other world that is rural America. And I do that with the Bug Tussle News Report. My first story is going to be a fun one. Well, they're both kind of fun, but this one's even more fun. There's a guy who's in trouble. He got himself arrested yesterday morning. He broke into a woman's house, and he's like, uh-oh, what'd he do? Did he rape her? Did he rob her? Did he kill her? Did he kill her family? Kill her dog? No. He hit her upside the head with a frying pan? Like, this sounded like a scary story to begin with. But, and look, the local TV station, they still air in black and white, but we have TV stations now. They had some audio of the incident. It must have been caught on a Ring doorbell camera. Check this out. Yeah, there it was. I'm sorry, I'm so childish. I just think of Tom and Jerry. Who actually hits another human being with the frying pan? In fact, have you ever read a story where someone actually did the Tom and Jerry move where they hit him with the frying pan? What is this, Looney Tunes? Is this Foghorn Leghorn hitting the hound dog? What is going on? This is the kind of crime we have out in Bug Tussle. Yeah, here in Dallas, or Houston or Baltimore or New Orleans, they have some scary news where someone pulled up on a birthday party and they just started spraying bullets into the crowd. Not in Bug Tussle. No, look out for those frying pans. That is a real story. Go look it up. Go look it up and see if there's a guy. Let's see. How will I tell you this without telling you this? Rusk County. Look for that. Rusk County. A man in Rusk County. And the fun part is Rusk isn't in Rusk County. Anyway, the other story, a little more sad, but there's a happy spin to it. One person is dead after a jet ski and a boat collided on Lake Tyler. What's so good about that? Well, one person dead. Isn't that the kind of death that happens in the middle of nowhere? See, the kind of death that happens here in the big city, someone got pushed in front of a subway, or some bicyclist in the bike lane got hit by a dart bus. That can't happen out there. We don't have dart buses, we don't have bike lanes, and we run the bicyclists off the road ourselves. We don't need any help. But this is interesting because the guy who was driving the jet ski, how old do you think he is? Oh, well, if he's getting in a fatal accident, might be a kid, 14, 15, or maybe it's a college kid trying to show off in front of the girls, maybe 19, 20, or maybe it's a younger guy who hasn't learned how to be responsible with alcohol yet, so 21, 23, 26 maybe. Check this out. Your boy is 75. Yeah. And if you're thinking, James, did you just say yeah? Yeah, I said yeah. Because when I'm 75, if that happens to me, you will not cry for me. You will applaud. That is a great way to die. We have different deaths out there. We have different life experience. And if you make it 75 years, you've done all the fun stuff pretty much. I mean, I'm not saying you need to just go ahead and end it. But the only thing you're missing is going to your grandkids' soccer games or seeing them graduate or going to someone's wedding or someone's funeral. You've done all the fun stuff. You've already had your career. You've already made your family. Not only are your kids grown, but your kids' kids are probably grown. And so all of your race has already been run. You're just in the fun part, but it's the declining fun part. So if you're at 75 and you can still operate a jet ski, and I go out like that, applaud for me, because I would love to go out like that. The other story, this is actually a Dallas story. There was a terrible one I read this morning. Some couple in Lake Highlands in their 80s. It was a murder-suicide. They're both dead. And I kind of think that that's a nice poetic way to go out too. When your life is already over and all you have is suffering left. Maybe they got some terminal diagnosis. Things weren't working out. And so they decided to take their own life. There's a certain nobility in that. There was the TV show Rome, and it showed where Cleopatra killed herself with an asp when Octavian showed up after he beat Mark Antony. And she wanted her kid to come in the room and see this happen because she wanted him to see this is how nobility dies, by their own hand. And I would love that. So if at the end of my life, if I get in a jet ski accident and die at an old age, or I get a terminal condition and me and Miss Parker have to go out in a murder-suicide, do not feel sorry for me. Hi, Miss Parker. If anybody's going to shoot me, it's going to be me or Miss Parker. Thank you very much. And that's how I want to go. Now, I'm not suicidal, so if I criticize Hillary Clinton and show up dead with 2 bullet holes in the back of my head, that's not legit. But I'm just talking about at the end of life, after your race is already run, after you've already done and accomplished everything you're going to accomplish, and you could pick out your death. Wouldn't you pick out something poetic like that? You wouldn't do the frying pan guy. That was just comedy. But the jet ski, the murder-suicide with the woman you've spent the last 60 years of your life with, wouldn't that be kind of a nice way to go? Wouldn't that be preferable to many other deaths that could be slow or agonizing or just chilling for 3 months in hospice while they keep you morphined up so you're comfortable while you're slowly dying and your insides are rotting out from the cancer? No, just let Miss Parker shoot me or give me a jet ski and get out of my way. Also, a couple reminders. Tomorrow, I'll be announcing where the next James Show meet and greet is. It's going to be a week from today. And if you want to get the Rhino list and map, just ask for it. The Rhino list is the 36 Republicans that you sent down to the House of Representatives in Austin that turned and voted with the Democrats on so many of these issues, including the Speaker of the House. And it's the reason why you didn't get a property tax cut. It's the reason why you didn't get proper school choice. It's the reason why they had such a miserable job. We did something about it. Brian and I got together. We have the list. We have the map. You can see if you live in one of the districts where you need to go primary your guy next year. And also, the countdown is on starting tomorrow. You can get discounted concert tickets from Live Nation. They have a big sale going on starting tomorrow. If you go to livenation.com/ticket to summer, you can get tickets to things like Dierks Bentley, Simple Minds, Slightly Stupid, Kesha. There's a whole slew of them. It's Live Nation. They have all the biggest artists with all the great concerts that are going to be all over town. So check it out. Maybe you can get some your hands on some tickets for $30. What a deal. If you need the address, just let me know. Send me an email, james@wbap.com. And don't forget about the James Show podcast. Go listen to that later when you're killing time. It's at wbap.com, WBAP app. And I say you could listen to other places, but listen to it on our app, please, so you can hear our commercials and, reward our sponsors. We work hard to put all this together. Download the WBAP app. It's free. And listen there. Thank you very much. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP.